And we're live. This is Live with Sondra. I'm your host, Sondra Shannon, CEO of Gatemaster Technology. And I'm super excited about today's topic. It's something a little bit different than what we've had on the show today. And that's what I'm looking to do is bring you all of these different unique things that are happening in our industry. And today we're going to be talking about bringing stories to life and the power of video in attractions. So most of you watching, or at least if you are in an attraction, you have visited an attraction that video is being used as part of the line queue experience, or maybe to uh, market a new ride or tell the story of the ride, maybe make more sense with the ride. This is something that we often probably don't think much about when we're a patron or a guest of an experience, but we're going to be talking about ways that video production and attractions can impact the experience and also maybe even better tell the story. So, the storytelling behind that. Today, my guest, my very special guest, who I'm excited to talk to, is Josh Leppert. And let me tell you a little bit about Josh before we bring him on stage. He is an executive producer at Sunshine Media, and he specializes in themed entertainment video production. He was a former show awareness producer at Walt Disney Imagineering. He has over 5 years of experience producing video content for world class attractions. His expertise in storytelling, creative concept development, and immersive video experiences is why he's here today on this show. And one of his favorite things, because we always ask our guests something that they like or they enjoy or they'd like to have part of the conversation, or just so we can get to know them better, is that he swims daily to stay creative and energized. And I love that because I'm also an athlete myself and I understand the importance of moving in order to stay creative, but also like how cool is that this guy swims? That's a really awesome that's a really awesome favorite thing. All right, so without further ado, let me bring to the stage Josh. Josh.
Hey, what's up?
Hey,
Hello,
Josh,
everybody.
welcome to the show today.
Welcome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'll take that off. That was just for the
I
introduction.
love that. That was awesome. I think Halloween was the only time I showed up in a Deadpool mask. So I love it. I love it when people. I had one guy who wore a bow tie because it's part of his brand,
Yeah.
um, and I love that. I love that the audience I'm sure really appreciates that. And just to make sure that I fully gave the audience an idea of who you are and what you do, is there anything that you want to add? I know I gave them a brief description, but we are so many things. Uh, and I do
Yeah.
have to ask about the swimming.
Oh,
You
okay.
swim in
Yeah,
the
cool.
ocean daily?
Not the ocean. No. Central Florida means that I'm pretty landlocked, except for the fact that I bought a house in February, which does have a pool, and I'm very, very thankful for that.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's a really cool thing that you're doing. I I wish I could say I was at that level, but I'm lucky if I get a walk every day.
There
Although
you
I
go.
did just get a new puppy. I got a new puppy and
Hey.
my trainer's like, "Hey, you guys gotta walk this guy a mile a day as part
Yep.
of our commitment to his training." So I am getting that little bit of time in.
Very
So
nice.
I thought that was really cool. That's a really cool hobby that you have there.
Yeah, I
Um,
love to do it.
so I mentioned to our audience that we're going to be talking about bringing the stories to life and the power of video in attractions.
Mhm.
Before we jump into that, is there anything that you want to share about you and your experience beyond the question? Because I got a lot of questions for you, so that's okay if we want to start there. But, is there any is I guess essentially what I'm trying to ask is what got you here? What is that thing that lighted you up enough to say, this is what I want to do in attractions?
Sure. So, oddly enough, attractions came later on into my trying to shape myself into a professional being experience. But I've always been interested in film and television production. I've always wanted to be a movie maker. My dad kind of got me started because on every single family vacation that we ever took during my childhood, he brought his little camcorder along. And I either wanted to be the center of attention right in front of the camcorder, or I wanted to take it away from him and film whatever I wanted to film for the videos. So it started there, and I ended up going to college at Michigan State University in film and television production. The program was called Media and Information, which was a little bit more broad than just, going on a soundstage and shooting something, which I think afforded me the ability to learn more about the advertising and the marketing and radio broadcast, and learn a whole bunch of different disciplines that you wouldn't normally get to if you just went to, say, film school, which I thought was really cool. But that broadened my search a little bit for what I wanted to do. And I've always been a fan of Disney. We went to theme parks every year, probably. Even though I grew up in Michigan, we went to either California or Florida quite avidly. And later on in college, I saw a couple advertisements for positions for post-grad internships at Walt Disney Imagineering. And kind of in the back of my mind, it had always been like, it would be really, really cool to be an Imagineer, but I want to make movies. I don't know how much those things cross over, really. Well, truth be told, I was pretty correct in saying that they don't cross over that much, but I did get a post-grad internship, and basically the one internship in Florida for Walt Disney Imagineering Florida at Walt Disney World that did deal with cameras and making videos and post-production, editing, all that kind of stuff. So I was lucky enough to land that after a much longer story that we can talk about later if we want to, but yeah, ended up coming to Walt Disney Imagineering Florida for a year, and then basically I started my own company after that.
That's awesome. And you know what I love about your story is it's just, I mean, I had a very similar experience. I loved what I loved, like I love laser tag. I'm always
Mm.
embarrassed to say that. I don't know why, because
No, it's
I
fun.
sound like a total nerd. I love laser tag, and especially in my late, 18, 19, I went and got a job and ended up in this industry. So I always love to hear those stories about how we got here and why we did it. But it wasn't just my own love of that particular, because that's a gamified attraction. It wasn't just my love of laser tag. It was actually when I started working in the industry that I started realizing the impact that we had and how we could create these experiences for people. And we did
Mhm.
a lot of birthday parties at
Oh
my
yeah.
facility. And, probably one of my favorite things, I mean, my poor kids hardly ever get birthday parties because I did so many of them before I had kids. But, at the same time, I loved what we were creating for those kids, and it just was such a great experience for me that I was like, I always want to be in this industry. I always want to
Yeah.
see this. And also, like you, growing up being kind of an avid, my family always went to Disneyland, and some of my best memories that I have with my family is there. So, just getting here by chance, right?
Mhm.
Like you were saying, and
Yep.
looking at ways. But, that kind of leads us to explaining this whole part of what you do in the industry. And I'm curious if you can tell us how attractions use video, not just for advertising, but as part of their guest experience.
Perfect. Yeah. So I'm glad you mentioned advertising because that is a big part of it. But when we look at video first and we think of video in attractions, right off the bat, we think of them as like more video based attractions. Say, the attractions that you'd think of primarily utilized at places like Universal Studios or their Islands of Adventure here in Florida, Gringotts, Transformers, Spider-Man, things like that, that are very screen based right in front of you. But there are so many more use cases for video in the entire attraction experience. So I've created videos for informative experiences in queue lines. Everybody loves a queue line video. And we talked about that earlier. Edited videos that enhance the attraction experience, but aren't necessarily integral to the experience. A good example I use for that is RIP, but I worked on the NBA experience over at Disney Springs. I thought that was such a fun project, even though it's gone now. Sad, sad, sad. But the example there is editing in the virtual audience of people to cheer you on as you actually shoot real baskets in the basketball experience there. There's edited videos for B-show experiences that are also important, where some sort of integral show element is not working and you need like a backup plan. Say if an animatronic goes down, usually it's a video to replace that. So B mode is very important for video as well. And then obviously more recently, I've been creating videos for social media and advertising, like we talked about, for different themed entertainment brands, which is its own beast altogether.
That's pretty cool. Well, let me
Yeah.
ask you, what role? Because I know that a lot of what you're focused on is the storytelling behind these experiences, and it sounds like that can mean a lot of things. But what role do you see storytelling playing in creating powerful video experiences for themed entertainment?
So for video, I think storytelling in video completes the immersion. Scenic rock work, theming props, building out strong sets. That is a good first couple of steps to get you almost all the way there to full on immersive storytelling. But I think video is that one catalyst to put it over the top. So I always tell people, if you're considering your theme park or attraction to be an immersive experience, I don't think you can be lacking in your cohesive storytelling, which video does so much to kind of connect. And it's not all video, of course, but if the video doesn't follow the set storyline of the experience, it's definitely going to stick out like a sore thumb. So, for example, at WDI, story writers were a division of their own. So they could kind of be assigned to each and every project that we had on property, no matter what discipline the project took. I mean, they were working with the painters, they were working with the rockwork specialists, they were working with media people. Just because if you overlook the story, the guests are going to know it. So for video projects specifically, storytelling and working with the attraction story for themed entertainment is basically no different than, say, a storyboarding process in film and television production. So you can't overlook it.
Yeah. It's interesting because actually on this conversation, Elitch is, because I'm here in Denver, is our local
Mhm.
park. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Yeah.
They have this Meow Wolf ride.
Yeah.
And before I'd ever been to a Meow Wolf, they have a Meow Wolf ride, but the queue line videos are so weird, but also great, right? Like it puts you like, and this is not like this is not a Disney experience. I mean,
Hmm.
it's other than the videos, it really is just, metal the metal stanchions that keep everybody in line. There's really not much to it because you're almost always at just outdoors waiting.
Yeah.
And but it's interesting because you got me thinking about that. I'd never really thought about how the way they designed that video really does put you into the experience more so than the set around,
Hmm.
because it's just they're not built that way there.
Right.
So it's really cool. But I always watch those videos and I'm like, this is weird. And then I get on that ride and I'm like, okay, I totally get it. It's a very positive weird. I love Meow Wolf.
And as a whole, Meow Wolf is its own beast altogether. Not to overuse a cliche, but I think we're going to get there plenty of times. I love Meow Wolf just because sometimes if you're not necessarily getting what they're trying to go for, the videos that they use are going to force you to get
Yes.
it. Like
Yes.
I love Omega Mart in Vegas for
Yes.
that reason. I think that's one of my favorite immersive experiences that I've ever seen, and I've still got a couple more Meow Wolf installations to go. But yeah, if you're walking in and you're totally confused, it'll take you a little bit, but trust me, you'll get it at the end, and we'll make sure to integrate it into your brain somehow.
Well, and I think that's what's so funny about what's overlooked with Meow Wolf. I talk to people who are not in the industry that have just gone and visited it, and they're like, "I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to go 20 more times before I get it." And when I say it's weird, that is like a very positive thing because I
Hmm.
embrace the weird. In fact, it's probably why
Absolutely.
it has always been one of my kids and I's favorite attraction at Meow Wolf. It's not a ride.
Hmm.
It's just a fun experience, and you can totally just for a moment, you're leaving Denver and you're in this place.
Yep.
So it's really, really cool. But uh, I'm taking you a little bit off topic talking
No,
about
that's
this
that's
because
totally
what I
fine.
really want to know right now is if you can share some examples of where the video that you've created have successfully integrated into the attraction storyline. And I know that we've shared some good examples with Meow Wolf, but what else is there out there?
I've got one really good one that I had the pleasure of working on in its initial stages. I didn't see the project to full completion. I had left the company by that time, but one of my favorite things that I ever got the opportunity to work on was Space 220, the space restaurant over at Epcot. So, if you're familiar or not, it's a restaurant where you take a space elevator from Florida up 220 miles into the atmosphere of space, and you get to dine with a view of Earth out of the windows of the restaurant. So, to take everybody out of the magic a little bit, really quick, yes, the Earth is a video. So you're not 220 miles
Oh,
up, unfortunately. But I think all of us being themed entertainment professionals do know that. That's why we're all here today. Yay. The concept of this attraction, in my opinion, could not exist without a video, unless NASA gets a lot more funding, of course. But a good enhancement for this question specifically is that technically the experience could still have worked if our props and fabrication teams had created a set of Earth out the windows and, out of plywood, MDF, call it a day. But the playful nature of the restaurant comes to life with the individual characters that occasionally bring the windows right in front of you as you're eating, to life. They make them alive. The spacemen and women that sometimes float by your tables as you dine, whether they're playing or working, you'll see plenty of fun stuff. Another little detail is that there are also spaceships that appear in the windows too, and all of them are named after executives on that project team. They're not named, you can't see the names, but they do have names. But the video aspect overall of the restaurant is just such a seamless integration into the story of that restaurant. And honestly, if video wasn't utilized, I'm not sure the project would be anywhere near as successful. I don't think people would keep going back. I know people who go multiple times just to see if they can see every little different element that goes by the windows because they want to catch everything. So if you didn't use video, I don't think that project would have worked.
yeah, that makes sense. And actually, it's funny that you brought up a restaurant at
Mm,
Epcot. I last year, my daughter and a friend of mine, we went and ate at Hollywood Studios. Do you know that restaurant where that's like you're going? It's like a '50s diner, and the ant,
couple of them.
and well, but it's the one where they like if you got your elbows on the table, your aunt
Oh
comes
yeah,
over and okay, what I wish I could think of the name right now.
Primetime
But
Cafe.
yes, that's it. Prime time.
Yep. Yep.
What I thought was really interesting though, and you're 100% right, is everywhere are these TV screens
Mhm.
that are playing, the old TV shows and even like there's been some video that's been created for that specific diner and it really does put you in the experience and just like that was one of my favorite parts of it was the
Yeah.
video
Yeah.
and
Got
sitting
got to
there
be
and
black
watching.
and white. You're in a
Yeah.
time period specifically, nothing in color, a little bit of static, a little bit of grain on the televisions because technology
Yeah.
is just now emerging. So, oh yeah, it's a big part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I never even considered that as part of the storytelling till just now. But that's amazing, and I love that, and I think this is so fun to talk about. And when we're talking about like this particular subject with regards to, trends and innovation of themed video production, what emerging trends do you see shaping the future of themed attraction experiences?
This question I thought was interesting when I was looking over it because I don't see video as a whole slowing down just because there are so many ways that you could take it, like I mentioned earlier. There are so many different technologies that are emerging, especially with, say, animatronics and illusioneering that might put video into a back seat, but I still don't think that's happening. To look at a few, Universal, I'd say is embracing video as a primary aspect of way more than any of their competitors. Like as I mentioned earlier, Universal's just got a ton of screen-based attractions that people love, and I don't see that stopping for them, especially with Epic Universe coming. But say Disney, I think utilizes video in more complementary ways, like in the queue lines. The trend in this case is that I think at Disney, video is taking more of a backseat to those practical effects in animatronics. And as technology advances, I think for storytelling and immersion purposes, it's definitely okay that video is taking a backseat, but that is one of the trends that I'm seeing, obviously.
Yeah. Well, and I'm curious, how can attractions leverage unique intellectual properties to create engaging video content? Is that something you can
I
speak to?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I think in themed entertainment, the audience they might be divided as I am on this one, but I think for IPs you kind of fall into one of two camps. For me, I think intellectual properties are a little bit too widely utilized for themed entertainment experiences. I personally love a good original concept ride. Sometimes when an IP is utilized, I feel like I know too much about the ride already, having never gone on it, just because I'm familiar with that IP. But to more accurately, I guess, answer the question, videos specifically love intellectual property. That's because how often have you, say, ridden a ride or gone on an experience that's based on one singular song or one radio show or a podcast? Like, it might happen on occasion, but 99% of successful IP attractions are based on media in film and television, i.e., videos. So, video
Yeah.
obviously is going to play a big part in that particular attraction experience for IP. As much as I'd love them to be, as much as I'd love myself to be in charge of that kind of thing, it might just be a tad above my pay grade to influence which IPs are chosen for attractions. We'll see as I advance my career. I hope that changes, but maybe to take a little bit of a different stance here, unique is a key word that you had mentioned in the question. Just because if you utilize an IP that has never been used in an attraction before, then bam, you'll instantly have an audience because nobody's ever done anything like that before. So whatever IP that may be, showcasing it through video would probably be a no-brainer at that point in time. So I know I took IPs in a whole bunch of different ways. I'm not a huge fan of IP-based attractions and experiences, but if we're talking video as a whole, video and IP go hand in hand.
Yeah, or like my favorite ride, Guardians of the Galaxy,
There you
which
go.
this poor audience has to hear me say all the time. That one is like absolutely one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And I think I've ridden it like at least 8 times,
Yeah.
which I haven't met anybody who's ridden it that much. That doesn't
Oh,
work there.
really?
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
Well, because the line is still, I mean, I think last time it was still a 4 hour wait.
Yeah,
So
I
I mean
still try my best to get that virtual queue at 7 in the morning.
yeah, it takes some dedication to make that happen, but
It
I
really
love
does.
that. I love that ride. I mean, I certainly appreciate the uniqueness, like you're saying, of like something that's unique. This is one of the reasons I love haunted attractions. Actually,
Yeah,
my last few guests have come from the haunted attraction space where where they've talked about just that. So much of that storytelling is unique. They're developing it for their attractions in-house all the time, and they're making up these stories that they're telling to scare people, which,
100%.
I'm so glad that there are people who love that. I'm not a big fan of jump scares. I am much more in the camp of just tell me a happy story and put me on a ride.
Yeah.
But I do like an exciting story that's being told for sure. Well,
Mhm.
what advice, Josh, would you have for attractions looking to innovate with video technology?
Sure. So I always tell people that video can be the most simple solution by far to achieving an intended look for your attraction or themed entertainment space. Then, obviously, to look at the other side, just to play devil's advocate, video is the best storytelling tool to advertise your experience as well on the other side. My advice basically is that video is the most versatile thing that you can use in your opinion. So my advice here might just seem like a cop out. Hey, it's video, use it. You won't regret it. But it's true. You can use it in so many different ways, whether it's in the actual experience or outside the experience that would be beneficial to your attraction.
Well, and I know we were talking, I was telling you a little bit about laser tag. One of the things that we always had in the laser tag arena in the briefing rooms were videos that would explain, the proper way to use a vest, how to make sure everybody stays safe, what the
Yeah.
rules are. But it made it fun and part of the immersive experience that people would have. Also, I think one really cool thing for me that I always loved is, you can hit a lot more people with video
For sure.
because you have that, even if they don't, even if, they don't have the take in all the audible stuff, they'll still be watching. So like my younger kids would still be able to understand how to put the vest on and do all of that. So I think that this is really interesting what you're talking about because video is so versatile and it can be used in so many
Absolutely.
places, not only just to promote and advertise or to be a part of the experience, but also to help your guests kind of have
Right. I
information
mean, you're
in a
like you
cool
had
way.
mentioned, if you're a little kid and you're a little bit maybe overwhelmed with the things that are going around you, so many adults and grown-ups are just, talking and you can't hear anything that's going on. Even if you can't read the subtitles on the screen, which, are there more often than not, so you can read if you can't hear, they're still demonstrating what's going on, to your point. Like it's a barrier uh it's a barrier clearer, basically, so that everybody can understand the essence of what's going on, not just for safety, but for the attraction experience as a whole, which does include storytelling. I think everybody can get it. Even if there's a language barrier, you're still going to understand if there's a video to watch.
Yeah, that's really
Hmm.
cool. That's really cool. Well, can we talk a little bit about the creative
Yeah,
process and the
let's do
inspiration?
it.
So, with regard to the creative process, how do you approach developing a story concept for a themed video production?
So, it's my belief that story is inherently everywhere. So, even when one hasn't been written on a page yet or put into an SOP, that being said, if I'm not working with a story writer on something that doesn't have a concept, I still do consider myself a storyteller at heart, albeit a visual one, maybe not a written one. So I try my best to flesh out any semblance of story from the environment in which the video is being installed. And this could be easy or hard. An example I have, and it's so funny that you mentioned laser tag. That's something I didn't know. But I do still work with a lot of FECs. So, for example, a video that I did previously, we dressed someone up as a character of an F1 driver, and that was the safety video that seamlessly fit into the go-kart venue, right? Which wasn't visual. That was, I think, probably the first video that they ever did because they had a spare monitor and they wanted to see what ways that they could use it. But it's not hard to know that, even though there's no story writer that you're working with, or you're not working with any creative people, that an F1 driver will fit seamlessly into a go-kart venue, right? That's just a no-brainer. Even if it's harder than that, story is just everywhere. So keep your eyes open. Whenever I go to a place, and I always usually insist that I have a site visit where I can just, without equipment, visualize the space, see how things flow. Maybe, take myself out of the mind of the creative director and put myself into the shoes of a guest, where I can see if there's any pinch points that having a story would help. I always either take my iPad or my notebook and jot a whole bunch of notes down. It's just keep your eyes open, keep your mind open, maybe look from a couple different perspectives, and you'll have a story in no time, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I love that. And I know that you said that you
Hmm.
swim to kind of keep yourself creative and to keep yourself motivated and all of the things that I'm sure that does for you. But I'm curious if there are any other creative exercises that you can share with the audience today to help them get past some of those creative blocks. Because I think sometimes that's really, especially when we're looking at the small to mid-sized attractions that are owner operated, maybe they don't have the funds for that IP, which is I really appreciate you saying like sometimes that's not the
Yeah,
cooler thing to do. The cooler thing is to have some original content. But for those operated attractions, a lot of times you're
everything.
everything and you might be bumping up against those creative blocks. What could somebody in that situation do?
So, in my opinion, obviously it seems really simple, but whenever I get a creative block and my mind goes cloudy, I just have to kind of step away from what I'm doing for a while. And kind of more to the answer that I had for the previous question. If I'm taking myself out of the mind of the creative director and looking at the whole thing through a different lens, if you've got some anxiety and you don't think you can fully step away and just go do something else, maybe that's something to do, is disassociate with the executive that you may be and look at it from a totally different lens. Like, okay, I need to step into some different shoes and maybe just forget all of my current responsibilities and see what new refreshing takes I can have on this that may even be completely unassociated with whatever you were thinking of earlier, to try and get out that creative block. But that's part of it for me, I think. But the best way for me to do it, obviously, is to do some sort of exercise. I learned that from a young age. I was always a sports player, and that was always what took my stress away. So whether that was football or track in high school, when I was in college, I played rugby, and that always just, it cleared my mind from all of the distractions that I had from, my film and television production duties. And afterwards, I felt better to kind of take on and complete those tasks. And now, like we mentioned earlier, I swim, so I can just kind of shut my brain off, do some laps in the pool, lounge in the sun if there is sun. Hopefully I'm not getting rained on. And yeah, I can come back after an hour or so, and it allows me to look at it through a much clearer view, and I don't have such a cloudy head. So that's always worked for me. I know it's not, the easiest, because everybody's different to think about, and there's probably a whole bunch of better ways how people can cope that are not me, obviously, but that's the way that I do it.
No, I love that because actually I was watching, and I know this is not what our show's about, but I love what you're saying about taking a step and going and doing these things. 'Cause I was watching an interview, and it was on one of these podcasts where they were talking about some of the research behind, like, exercise and taking a walk in order to clear your mind in a way that makes you more
Yeah,
productive and probably even more creative at times, because you just got to take yourself out of it. But also, there's so many good chemicals that happen when you go and you stress your body out a
yeah,
little bit, right? So, it's interesting to me that you brought it up. I know that's not what the show is about, but I think that is probably one of the best insights you could have shared with this audience, because we're all going to find ourselves in this
absolutely.
spot, right? That's what I love about this show. We're humans. We're all having this experience on this planet, and some of us work in attractions, and it's a very highly creative
Absolutely.
industry. We need these outlets. We need these things that we can go to help us continue to do the work that we do. So I think it's
Yeah,
totally on
we
point.
are the most creative
If
people
you're
on the
asking me,
planet, and everybody is going to suffer some sort of creative block at some point. Nobody is immune to it, even the most creative people on the planet. It's just going to happen.
sure, sure. I mean, I know my team asked me to sit down and come up with some ideas, and I'm like, I'll do it after the show. I got to take that break. So, I mean, I'm just sitting with it all
Yeah,
morning. Although I always tell people on my show days, I'm like, no bad
exactly.
news.
Please.
I get to be in a bubble because, and actually, I mean, it's been great. Like, it's actually on the days where I do a show, I have like the best days
Exactly.
ever, because not only do I get to talk to people like you who are doing these incredible things and incredible and creative things, but also, yeah, they're like
Yeah.
great days, because I get to do this. But when we're talking, if we can go
Mhm.
back, I just have a couple more questions for you, and I hope you're okay
Oh, for
on
sure.
time because. Okay, cool. We talk about like measuring the impact, right? Measuring the impact. What are some key metrics or signs that you look for in order to know that a video campaign is working and integrating into the success of that
All right.
attraction?
So this, I think, effectively is going to be my first red flag that I'm going to put out into the air. I think that people might think this is a red flag. Despite the fact that I work as secondarily a marketer and an advertiser, because my business does have those components to it, I don't look at traditional analytics and customer response tools. Like, I don't look at likes, I don't look at engagement, I don't look at comments necessarily. I maybe do, but just in a different lens. So, it's probably going to seem like the most simple answer of all of the questions today, but um, I don't use any analytical metrics for videos for attraction specifically. For bigger projects that I've been able to work on in the industry, I've had the luxury of being able to just search out reactions through simple social media posts, not necessarily comments, likes, shares, whatever. Um, a good example of this is the response that the public had to videos that I did for my favorite project I've ever worked on of all time, which was a video refresh for Living with the Land over at Epcot, the little boat ride through the
Hmm.
greenhouses. So I have
Yeah,
I have this tattoo. I don't know how accurately we can see it, but it's
that's
of Living with the
awesome.
Land. This entire sleeve eventually will be projects that I worked on and
Yeah,
stuff, but it's my favorite project of all time. And for the entire time that they had announced, hey, we're shutting it down for a couple days. We have to install this new video. My video is the barn theater video, by the way, that shows you in arid regions, this is how we better cultivate our props and stuff like that. Then here at
yeah,
Epcot, yeah, so that video is my video. For when that video was announced, because there was a very small, modest announcement, because it's not like they're, redoing the entire attraction. There was like a 90-minute queue for almost the entire, day, couple of days afterwards when that video was installed. And not just me going and looking at the reactions that people had when they were getting off, because I was totally curious and wanted to even like ask some guests what they thought, which I kind of did in some cases as well. But Twitter posts, Facebook posts, Instagram, TikTok, I think at that time, the posts that people made on all of those sites were just overwhelmingly positive. Like, I'm so glad we got rid of this 80s, very dated footage and brought something new and lively to it. I think just seeing happy people experiencing your work out in the parks is one of the most informative metrics that you could ever look at. It's not software, it's real, genuine smiling faces. And I think that's more
yeah,
important.
it's the
Yeah.
reactions. Yeah, I love that, and I think that it is important to remember that that really is the
Mhm.
metric, right? Are people having a memorable, good experience when they do these things? But I also love what you said about how video, we didn't even talk about this, so I hope you're okay with me
Of
bringing
course.
this up, but you mentioned like it was a
Yeah.
refresh video. And that is something too that's, not I hadn't even planned on talking to you about, but when you really think about like if I want to refresh my attraction, that might be one of the best places to go
Yeah.
is video.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, yeah, this is such a cool topic. Um, so before we wrap up, I just wanted to ask you some final
Mhm.
insights. And, what's one thing themed attractions often overlook when it comes to using videos
So
effectively?
it's going to kind of encompass a few of the answers that we had already talked about, but I believe that it's not necessarily correct to think that you can only leverage video and attraction that you have a strong IP to back it. Um, that's just that's the stigma these days that I've found with video. Like, we asked this earlier, but so many people think this way because the IPs most widely used in themed entertainment are on the screen already. But video can easily be as effective without an IP and can be used in projects of all sizes, from the big corporate theme parks all the way down to the family entertainment centers, with all different levels of budgets as well. The most important thing I think to take away from this conversation, from my perspective, is that video is one of the most versatile elements that you could use to enhance a project, and any single person from the small all the way up to the C-suite can utilize video in an effective way to get those smiling faces, to not only just come to your project once, but to return on a regular basis too.
Well, and I think what's so cool about what you said, thank you for those last insights because I think you're going to help so many parks and attractions that maybe aren't those big brands that we
Yeah.
all know, really overcome that stigma behind being able to create video and have that be part of their attractions. But also, what I'm taking from you today that I think is really unique and cool about this conversation is that video it's a tool that can be used for so many things. It's a communication tool, it's a storytelling tool, it is a way to break up the line.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very versatile, like you said, and I'd never considered that as part of, we all ride rides and overlook that video that's overhead sometimes, but don't realize that there are so many people out there probably using that as part of, how to understanding what comes next or what that experience is going to be like, or even bringing that story
Yeah,
together.
and
So thank you so much for
absolutely.
doing
I
that.
think if we're looking at it in terms of like the guest's view, if you are in a theme park, if you are in any sort of themed entertainment space, if you are in a venue that has rides, attractions, things to do, and you do see a video, it's not just there to be there, right? There is some sort of
Yeah.
informative aspect that the video is trying to convey to you, the audience. It can be a fun little enhancement, but that's the key word. It's an enhancement. It's going to complement and help the story, further your experience in that attraction. It's so important.
Yeah, no, I love that. Thank you for sharing. Hey, well, thank you for being here today. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate you sharing these insights on the video and the storytelling behind video and how it can impact these attractions. Josh, before I let you
Yeah.
go, though, how can somebody get a hold of you if they have questions, and what would be the right reason to get a hold of you? How can
God,
you help
get
somebody
a
out
hold of
there?
me for any reason that you want. Honestly, I'd love to talk video. I'd love to talk creative, anything. Get a hold of me on, let's start with Instagram first. So my Instagram handle is at InstaHosey. That's HOSY Hosey. I've got a TikTok. We'll see if that platform stays up. It's at Vacations by Josh. That one, I've got a lot of my other WD insights and creative themed entertainment videos. I've got like 40,000 followers on there right now, which is really cool. But if you want to more, say, talk shop, a little bit more on the business side, connect with me on LinkedIn as well. Joshua Leppert on LinkedIn. You can't miss this face. I'm prominently featured. And you want to shout out email too? Is that all right?
Yeah, do
Perfect. All
it.
right. sunshinemediame@gmail.com is my email if you want to send me one of those too.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing with us how to get a hold of you. We'll make sure to add that
Sweet.
too, to any recaps that we have, so people have that information. Please do reach out
Please.
to Josh. I mean, I love bringing people on this show because, we got to connect people with those that can help them and maybe have these ideas, can help them get past these creative barriers that they might
Yeah.
be having. But also, it's experts like you that are bringing this industry together and creating these experiences. So, I just want to wholeheartedly thank you for being on the show today and spending so much of
I
your
had a
time with
blast.
me.
Thank you very much, Sondra. It was awesome.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh. We'll talk
Sounds like a
soon.
plan. Bye, everybody.
So I don't know about you guys, but storytelling and video, I mean, it makes me want to go out and make a video right now because I think there's a lot of things even in my scope of work, which is technology, where we can use video to bring to life whatever it is that we need to bring to life for people. So I hope you learned something new today. I hope you thought about some ways that you can now use video in your attraction, and even how maybe you can use video to enhance some of the other things that you're doing in your attraction, like communicating with your guests. If you are an expert like Josh in your industry and you have something that you want to share with attractions, I'd love to have you as a guest on the show. The Live with Sondra show, you can find our guest form on livewithsondra.com. And we're always looking for people who are willing to share information, because that to me is like the mark of an incredible person who wants to say, hey, let's make everybody else successful too, because I've got this great information to share. And that's really what we're showcasing here, is people in this industry doing amazing things, people who are willing to share these amazing things, and people who are able to connect with each other and help us continue to move this industry that we love forward. So if you are interested, visit me and my team at livewithsondra.com. There's a guest form there. There's also recaps of all of these shows, information on how you can reach our guests, because they've shared their time with us on this show, but they want to be able to share this information with you. So you'll be able to find that contact information for them, as well as just take a look at some of the old shows that we've done. I've done 2 shows so far this year, but there's many more to come, and I am just so pleased with the guests that we have planned for you. So leave us a comment today. If you like the show, let us know that you are watching. If you're watching on replay, hashtag replay, so we know you were here. And if you're listening on any of the podcast channels, we appreciate you listening. And thank you for being here. Thank you for spending time with us. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you on the next Live with Sondra.